Hi, and welcome back to Yeti at Large. This is part 3 of our Principles of Communication in the Workplace series. This episode, we're going to focus on phrasing things in the form of a question. It's a universal approach, and it is such a valuable skill to develop. We're only going to look at a few of the myriad of angles to interpret this, but I want to go into a couple of really basic ones. And I've had 2 major careers in my life. One as an executive chef, pastry chef, and one in public safety. I've had lesser careers working in agriculture, substitute teacher, salesman, and stuff like that. But every one of those jobs, every one of those work environments that I could approach, phrasing things in the form of a question would do me untold benefit. And I give the example that everybody's had this happen to them, that you'll be talking with a peer, a coworker, a superior, a subordinate, a classmate, a neighbor, and you make a statement, and it's not that your heels are so dug in that you believe that this statement is canon, but you just make a statement in an interest in sparking a conversation, and the instant reply is to be focused on debunking your statement, proving why it's inaccurate, incorrect, why you're wrong, etc., etc. If you take that exact scenario and you phrase things more in the form of a question, you might find that it avoids that kind of butting of heads, that conflict. And in my notes here, I put down a couple of basic ones. But as I was preparing to shoot this, I was hearing a commercial that was running on my TV about how somebody was educating people on the evening news to phrase things in the form of a question. My youngest just bought a vehicle from a used car dealership, his second of his life. And those questions, again, phrasing things in the form of open-ended questions. Not only is it a powerful interrogation technique used by law enforcement agencies, look up the READ technique, R-E-E-D. Look up that and you'll find some interesting stuff. There's also a lot to be learned with body language. Those of you that read that may be interpreting my right to left gaze, my down gaze, my up gaze, hand gestures, all that kind of stuff. But the simplest thing is those open-ended questions. So in public safety, so much of what I had to deal with was with people who called me but weren't happy I was there. And in order to apply a little customer service to that from an external customer point of view, I would ask questions like, what would you do if you were in my position? What do you want to see happen? What outcome would you like to see? Is there anything I missed? What don't I know? What should I do next? And a lot of times people will have very unrealistic expectations. You can imagine one group calls, the other group calls, and they both want to point fingers at the other group, and neither of them are going to be happy with my decision. I think of property boundary disputes come to mind more than anything. But those kinds of questions give people a moment to think in the terms of I statements. Okay, if I give you the power, what would you do? And if they say, well, I would go do X, Y, and Z, if that's illegal, immoral, or unethical, maybe we're not going to do that, but at least it gives you a platform to have a mutual discussion after they have engaged in making I statements. Now, as an internal customer inside the workplace, as a chef, all of these questions are so valuable. Look at it from the perspective top down, engaging your supervisor. You want to know how to do the job the best. You want to know what their expectations are. How many times have we been engaged and working very hard seeking a result that the supervisor in the organization wasn't even looking for, wasn't even related to the mission? So by asking those questions, what would you do in this scenario? How best can I approach this? How is this different from when you had this position? What don't I know? That's one of the most powerful questions out there. What don't I know? You've heard it said many times that one of the sources of wisdom is to know what you don't. And when you know what you don't, it gives you a good place to work towards building a well-rounded knowledge of a certain scenario or situation. But if you ask your boss, what don't I know? It's amazing what they'll tell you. Whether you agree, understand, or anticipate their response, it gives them a chance to impart some knowledge and to talk. And if there's anything we all know, there's no sound we like more than the sound of our own voice. And B, it gives you a chance to really understand what their expectations are at that moment. And in a later episode, we're really going to talk about getting that in writing, but not today. What should I do next? Great way to conserve your precious energy and scarce resources. Hey, I'm being paid for a 40-hour job. That's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for example. I honestly believe I have 9 hours worth of work a day here. How should I best go approach this to get this done in the time allotted? Now, obviously, your boss is going to want you to be a miracle worker and figure that out. They're always going to ask for slightly more than is realistic. But as long as they tell you X, Y, and Z, then at least you have a point of reference to go back and saying, I employed the exact practices that you told me to do, and I still wasn't able to accomplish X, Y, and Z in the 8 hours given. At least it gives you common ground to discuss with. What did I miss? Did I miss something obvious here? And go that route. Now with subordinates, you can change that a little bit and ask them, where are you at? How are you feeling about this? How's your spirit? You got spring in your step. Is everything okay? Now, you got to be real careful. You don't want to pry into people's personal lives. You don't want to ask health-related questions. You don't want to ask relationship questions. You want to avoid what I refer to as the alphabet soup. But if you leave them an open-ended invitation, how are things? Is everything okay? Is there anything in my capacity as your supervisor I can assist with? If they choose to go there, then you can acknowledge, hey, look, you're talking about something that's highly protected speech. I would love to help you with this, and I don't want to overstep. If I go in a direction you don't want me to, you can tell me to stop right away. And that's a great place to go from. Peers and coworkers. Hey, what can I do to help? What a powerful thing to say to a peer. And my last engagement as a mid-level supervisor, we were all empowered with all the responsibility, but with very little of the authority. So it was important that we, on a parallel level, have a very strong working relationship. And one of my favorite things to do was to poke my head in the office. What can I do to help? Now, I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm stressed, and I got more to do than I can accomplish. But so does my peer. And just the act me of saying, hey, what can I do to help, sometimes is just enough. Once in a blue moon, they would say, man, I could really use this, this, and this. Well, I can't help you with this and this, but guess what? I've got this in the bag, and let me see what I can do to give you 5 minutes of my time and lighten your burden. Powerful stuff. Don't be quiet quitting on the people that are shoulder to shoulder with you in the trenches. Work on that quiet promoting. When you focus on letting people know by phrasing things in the form of a question that you're genuinely interested in their welfare and that you want to support your shared goals and a common mission, it can really go a long way to improving situations. One of the key things that we can do, and I'm going to close on this, is to remove your feelings and focus on the situation, not the personalities involved. Now, I've worked with people who have made me nuts, and I know for a solid fact that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a common goal and a shared mission. And if I'm to go in there and ignore the personalities and ignore my feelings, act as though my feelings don't matter, and communicate with people just based on the situation, it's amazing what we can get done. Another one of the things I used to tell the people on my squad all the time is I take the blame, you get the credit. And when we don't care who gets the credit, it's amazing what we can accomplish. I think that's one of those motivational posters you'll see in the hallway somewhere. I'm standing here in my expansive studio in my set because of all the artwork in my lovely pile of sticks. This is one of my favorite. This is just a lithograph. It was made in the 50s of a painting that was done in the early 20th century by Frederick Remington. and it's called Smoke Signals. And I love this painting, not only because the colors really show the American West for what it really was, which shocked a lot of people on the East Coast back then, but it's all about communication, and these guys are basically reaching out to people who they have a shared mission and a common goal. I know, Agnes, just a minute. And it really paints a portrait of people who are very engaged in the act of communication and taking good care of everybody in the team. They've all got their individual jobs, and I love this. I look at this painting. This was given to me by my CPA, and I'm very, very grateful for it. Thank you for tuning in and joining us at Yeti at Large. Please like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Ask questions. Bring up concerns or comments. Let's make this a larger conversation in the ocean of workplace communication and those principles of that kind of stuff. Looking at my notes here, I think the next episode that we're going to do is we're going to go counterclockwise, and we're going to work on speaking from the positive.